The following video has close-up imagery, descriptions, and actions of real-life bugs in it, such as ants, bees, wasps, and more. If you are disturbed by any of these, please do not view this video. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome back to GGM. You may take a break from your commenting to watch the gloriousness that is none other than me.
As you've all been commenting away like dutiful ants, please enjoy as Butter feels the sting of his pitiful defeat.
I might be the only person in this comment section on Mr. Burns' side. The guy has hunting skills, yes, and he has an entire army's worth of weapons and robots, but it's harder to kill a single bug with a bullet than a person. Thing is, there's already guns designed to kill specifically bugs with bug spray, but Monty can hit hundreds of them with a shot, assuming he isn't using a straight up bomb or tank. I don't foresee how a bunch of bugs could harm Burns' mech suit in any way, shape, or form. They would get squashed by the time he passes through. Speaking of that, Mr. Burns being so frail and weak might end up being one of his biggest advantages. If the same doctor who diagnosed him with the Three Stooges syndrome couldn't inject him with a needle in the arm, bugs like hornets, wasps, and weeds don't stand a chance, and they might die without causing any real harm to Burns. Any bugs who try and get inside him or Burns get squashed instead? Question mark? He has survived worse, like getting squashed by a whole mountain and slithered his way back up through the small cracks in between the rocks. He was electrocuted on multiple occasions, has gotten run over and thrown around, his body has been twisted and his organs extracted. His breath alone can kill bugs. He is indeed immune to any diseases the bugs might have. You forget that Burns has every disease known to mankind and newer ones have been discovered in him. He's been around for hundreds of years. They can't actually harm Monty at all. And about going nuclear, Mr. Burns' weapons alone can cover the area, killing bugs via AoE, Area of Effect, hundreds of times with a few bombs or his mech or any other nuclear weapons he has. And I'm confident he could devise a trap to trap and kill the bugs without aid. He might be clumsy at times, yes, but he has survived worse things than some bug spray. He already has leprosy and has lost and regenerated body parts like nothing. He can come up with stuff on his own, like with his fish trap made out of recycled materials. Lisa only gave Burns the idea of using recycled materials to produce energy, which wasn't even her own idea. It's something that people have been doing for a long time. What Mr. Burns did was use that concept and used it to create everything else by himself. Thank you. The biggest drawback though is if Mr. Burns goes nuclear. It would kill almost every bug, yes. It has even killed everyone in Springfield in a Treehouse of a Horror 2, leveling the entire town. But there's a few problems. One, there's a possibility of a few surviving bugs can mutate thanks to the radiation and finally end Burns for good. Two, even if this doesn't happen, there's a bug that can survive radiation. A cockroach. Burns would have to deal with the final boss of the bugs, or even worse, he would have to deal with worms. And we all know how Homer dealt with worms. But by then, I'm sure those two things wouldn't happen, or at least the chances of them happening are slim to none, since they might be dead by then, and the mutation seems to affect more advanced life forms than bugs, like fishes and people. Sorry God, you should have sent 30 million lions instead. What the ass is this 180 at the end? If it can wipe out everyone in Springfield, it's going to wipe out one of every—
I mean, yeah, you're the only one on Burns' side. Only a moron would think he wins here. I get the simple solution idea, just use bug spray. Alright, you have a cone AoE. Keep in mind, it doesn't instantly kill them. Also remember that you're surrounded completely. You are being attacked from all sides, as well as above and below. How is this cone that is only going out directly in front of you where you're pointing is gonna save you? And from the sound of it, you're also overestimating Burns. He got crushed by a mountain. Yeah? And he got crushed by balloons. And if any of them were to be removed, he would just die. Also, let's say he devised a trap. Okay, how is he making it? Bro only got 2 layers of brick set up in a doorway overnight while prepping by himself. And again, when he went to fumigate his own home, he trapped himself. He is going to trap himself in the very trap he's making.
You continue to insist he'll be surrounded, and yet even that part of your argument has flaws. You say that these bugs could make a barrier and surround him at all angles, but the matter of even if they would is still an issue. These bugs are about as smart as you, so I can't really see them making any sort of proper strategy. All they're really going to do is fly at him directly. Having the idea to make a barrier to surround him would require a thought process, which again, they do not have. Who's to say they don't just come in one huge tidal wave in one direction? And even if they do come in all directions, it could be severely unbalanced where they have a weak side that only has a few thousand bugs guarding it. We never specified they would come in this barrier or how they would even show up. There's a variety of ways this can go, and even the slightest bit of weakness on one side would completely screw them over. And with the balloon scene, sure, Mr. Burns does have instances of being comically weak, but then he also has them of being comically durable or hard to kill on a way more consistent basis. Where I'm sure you can name a couple of dozen times he did something extremely weak, I could name several hundred times he did something that isn't as weak as a bug. Your list you got from top 10 videos on YouTube is going to run out faster than my list, cause I've actually watched the whole show.
Of course they'd surround him. They're coming from all over the place. It's natural they would. Including the fact that they have a form of divine guidance, I don't see how they wouldn't surround him. It's not like we're going, then God said, let them walk in a single fucking file line towards Mr. Burns. Even without his goated voice, the chances of them surrounding him naturally has a high likelihood considering just their positions. Again, we have bugs that dig and bugs that fly, and bugs can just go around Mr. Burns' defenses to the other side because bugs don't lack survival instinct. These are living creatures. They would prefer to live. They will recognize danger and change their course. Mr. Burns isn't a badass, Butter. He isn't written like that. The intent of the writers is to depict him as feeble and weak. If he does something that makes you shout, oh, he's universal now, or he's massively FTL, that's just not what the writers are going for. But that's just getting into the debate of versus stats versus writer's intent and what should actually be considered. I'd say in a GGM, writer's intent is more important than raw versus stats, but you do you, that's just different philosophies here.
What are you blabbering on about, you buffoon? The voice never claimed anything except the bugs were coming after him. We never said that the voice was God, and we never said that he was the one who even sent them. You're trying to pretend that I'm coming with the actually arguments like you are going, excuse me, the scenario said that the bugs are being sent by God so they get omniscient and aren't acting like real bugs at all. Fuck you, I win. And bugs have some survival instinct. For one, I never said that they don't have survival instinct, as most living things do. I said that they don't have a real thought process. 2, having instinct doesn't mean that they can properly strategize. And 3, their survival instincts are garbage. Last week, I brought out a pair of ribs out of my freezer and left it out to the thaw. When I came back a few minutes later, a fly had landed on it and froze to death. Mage, this is what you're defending. This is what's on your side. Oh no, this is gonna beat Mr. Burns. Look at all its survival instincts and intelligence. What could I possibly do? Bugs are complete dumbasses. On top of just avoiding it isn't as easy when applied on the field. Everything is dangerous to a bug. And finally, Mage, I never said that Mr. Burns was BA Badass OP Solo's your favorite verse. Meanwhile, you're harping on the bugs like they're fucking Einstein. What I have continued to say is that Mr. Burns is as strong as an old man. Not this massively FTL uni shit your bug-sized brain came to the conclusion to. Trying to argue writer's intent like it's at all on your side. There are dozens of episodes that showcase Mr. Burns being on par with a child in strength. Most of the jokes you bring up are actively contradicted when the plot takes him seriously.
The child he's on par with when the story takes him seriously is a baby. Are you seriously trying to hype up what is equivalent to stealing candy from a baby? And bro is shutting his eyes to the large chunk of this group of bugs that use what is essentially just full-on human warfare. Sure, there are some that are just mindless fodder. Perfect! We have a wave of distractions so the real players can get to work. What you're doing is completely ignoring the chaos of this kind of war zone. It'd be impossible to be able to track what bugs Burns' forces have taken down. Even if this was a completely brain-dead force, the sheer numbers would just be too much. I'm so tired of you projecting your intelligence here onto the bugs. Let's just move on to the next comments here. The bugs quite obviously win this. They clearly have a much higher brain capacity with how they fly aimlessly into bright lights and moving vehicles, and totally amazing ability to lift 52 milligrams for a second before crashing. Wait a minute.
You know, I like the sound of this Aruma Setrub fellow.
I'm sure you do, buddy. I hope you have a terrible day, Aruma Setrub. I'm reading a different comment.
Oh, fiddlesticks.
Now this is interesting. Mage is finally back, and it's great to see. And the best part is he returns with a W. Why, thank you. I do agree that Bugs will put an end to Montgomery, and leave as he is so coincidentally called Burned. Now before we go into the advantages for Bugs, I acknowledge the advantages for Burns, because he does have a couple. Yeah, he does. First off, he's pretty experienced with fights, being in war. Yeah. Pretty useful, and not only being pretty big, but also varied with different weapons. Bugs aren't exactly tactical geniuses, yeah, of course. I mean, yeah. Now, not all of them. I mean, there's ants. Ants and bees, they got some strategies to pull off. First off, even though the bugs are small, they're pretty large, with some like tarantulas, not necessarily bugs. If I recall correctly, spiders are not. But it's nice to see like they're in the same sort of like competing with these guys. Centipedes that eat tarantulas, yep, there you go. See, they're similar weight classes. Scorpions bigger than your hand, praying mantises, that eat lizards, yeah. I don't think we're not using the like extinct bugs, no. But it's interesting to bring up and something to be considered. Now we look at Mr. Burns, there's a problem because it does have, his mech, I fully agree, his mech is absolutely just, it is not fully protected. Nuke's mixed opinion on that. Well, the tank could be useful. Now, for the fact that some bugs are so small, it's gonna have a hard time seeing them in the tank. True. The tank is pretty slow. True. And would Mr. Burns think of using it all? Maybe. He's trying to forget stuff as simple as the person's name before, and where probably might get arrogant, think the tank is too easy. It's entirely. Oh, okay. We're talking about the tank now. Yeah. I entirely see Mr. Burns popping his head out of the tank and laughing, and then oops. Fully agree on that. Look at the robots, which seem to be useful until you take account of the episode they're in. Yeah, I said Mr. Burns needed someone to manage and have the robots do their job. And he admitted he couldn't do it, or even Smithers, so that the robots are going to do when Mr. Burns can't order them himself. Probably just sit there. They're very hard to command all these guys, especially from up in his ivory tower. Butter brings up the idea that the insects are very slow. Well, yes, no. They're slow comparative. Like, okay. Yeah. Bugs are slow, but they're fast with compared to their size. Like, spawning a fly is difficult. Yeah, I agree. And they can just get on Montgomery, give him down because he's just that pathetically weak. Yeah. Now, I will bring up one more thing that it's important to know about Burns. He relies on help. Yep. He relies on help. Even one in the episode where he tries to hunt people, he had Smithers driving him around. There's a chance that all those trophies of animals are not his. Yeah. Or, well, his, but he needed help to do so. Yeah, I can see that. Well, which he does not have in the scenario because he is on his own, while bugs have each other and would attack each other because it makes no sense. Well, it makes sense that bugs would attack each other, but in this scenario, yeah, the bugs wouldn't attack each other. And they're kind of forced to work together here. In the end, Montgomery Burns has done much harm, but today the bugs will be known around Springfield as the ones who brought this tyrant down and made sure he will never stop the light of day on any innocent person.
A few problems with this, but you're commenting for bugs, so it's expected. Pretty much everything you listed here isn't a bug. Centipedes may have close ties to them, but even they're considered arthropods, where spiders and scorpions are considered arachnids. And no, Mr. Burns' robot doesn't fire actual sized nukes, but it's still a humongous explosion. It lights up and shakes an entire room. There's no missing a shot with this robot. Burns' robot are wiping out all of the bugs if they're even in the same room as him. Even if one like a roach survives it, he's still in a gigantic robotic machine that can crush them with mechanical arms. Speaking of robots, you misunderstand why they kept an employee. The robots completely function by themselves and could do any job Mr. Burns told them to do. They kept the human employee, as stated, to do the jobs that would be a waste of a robot's time. These robots only turn on Mr. Burns as a result of Homer hacking them, but the bugs are not doing that. Some bugs are a bit faster than others, but a vast majority of them are taking hours to days just to traverse Springfield. Oh, but Mr. Smithers was driving his car in that hunting episode. That's likely the reason he got those kills, right? Do I need to explain vehicle safety to you? Mr. Burns was doing the tracking and killing during that episode. He just chose not to be so dense to do it while driving. It isn't just texting and drinking that you shouldn't be doing behind the wheel. And how are you arguing that bugs have worked together, but then completely disregarding the many bugs that kill each other as not making sense? This is real fucking life! Are you trying to argue plot-induced stupidity in our world? You yourself have brought up instances of centipedes eating spiders under the thought process that those counted as bugs. So how do bugs eating each other not make sense? You can't just take part of the argument that helps a bug side and go nya, 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 when the negative issues are also brought up. Some bugs work together, sure, but a lot of them don't and often just eat each other. That far outweighs the little teamwork that a few of these species could have together.
Ooh, a room-sized flashbang. Real scary. And actually, I have a big asterisk I want to put on your robots that appeared for a singular episode. These robots had to be trained for their jobs by the humans they were replacing. This took a whole day of work, which means Mr. Burns will have to teach these robots how to use each of his weapons effectively, and keep in mind they are programmed to not cause harm. If he turns off their safety, the prerogative basically becomes time to kill humans, which just means they're team bugs. Also keep in mind the robots' movements are fairly clunky. They are not going to be piloting vehicles effectively. Even if he manages to train these robots, he's going to have a hard time doing that on his own. Again, his ability to prep on his own is poor. He needs the work done by others. Yes, he could build a business on his own. Sure, great. Let me crush these bugs by hiring them and firing them. Yes, brilliant. The bugs aren't going to tear each other apart, or this isn't the scenario. We've already been over this. The bugs can kill each other all they want once Mr. Burns is dead. But until then, the only thing they can think about is how Mr. Burns has to die, and they must kill him by any means necessary.
You know, I'm starting to understand why these flies are attracted to you, given how much shit you're full of. He only ever said that to get them angry so that he could have rightful cause to fire them. He tells them all to get out literally right after making that claim. And the robots were programmed to protect human life, which is actually more reason they would protect Burns. They aren't as limited or helpless as you're saying, and these robots might struggle to pilot something, but they're not going to need to do that with how strong they are, and he has robots that can pilot stuff too. And as far as prep, you agree that he can build the successful billion-dollar empire by himself, which requires good planning, and then you say he's poor at planning? Are you serious right now? Are you actually so one-track mind that you forgot what you just agreed to as true completely contradicted your next point?
Seems to me that you think building a business requires the same kind of prep as fighting an army of 30 million bugs. Also, I believe I'm more covering my bases here, like giving Burns the benefit of the doubt. If we allow this, then yada yada yada. Of course, I don't actually think it should be allowed because yada yada yada, which supports me because yada yada yada. This debate has a lot of moving parts because there's freaking 30 million bugs!
Obviously, prepping for an attack is a bit different from building a business. I never said that that was the same. I'm dismissing the fact that you're calling him a poor planner when that's just not true. And talking about benefit of the doubt is not the angle you want to take. Bugs are given so much leeway in this scenario. Not only did we use the highest number for them, as several more studies show there's around 2 to 10 million of them at most, but we even are assuming that they know where Mr. Burns is at all times. In any other scenario, we wouldn't just assume the character could track another unless they actually had a specific means to, which real bugs do not. On top of that, you're trying to argue that they have literal God on their side.
I'm sorry that you agreed to these terms for the episode. Perhaps it should have been brought up prior. Oh well. I feel it's perfectly logical that the voice is on the bugs' side, as he literally sent them as a punishment for Burns. Like a plague of locusts of sorts. But let's hear someone else yap for a bit.
I'm on Team Montgomery Burns, and allow me to explain my reasoning. Oh, don't worry, Big Chip. You don't need to explain anything. Common sense is enough. The only thing that they have is numbers. Also, why would Mr. Burns not take an army of bugs over 100 miles long seriously? Like, yeah, he's full of himself and extremely overconfident, but he's still got the common sense to know when he sees a million bugs charging at him, he's going to take action. Maybe he wouldn't at first, but once he sees what he's dealing with, he absolutely will. Also, to touch on the jet and vehicle things, for those who say he can't get in one of those things while he's fighting, like, he can just shoot missiles, bombs, and other weaponry at this horde and he just blitz them. The jet is going 2,300 miles per hour, and a car is going around 200 miles per hour versus bugs who can't keep up with a human running. The fastest flyer is about 65.7 times slower than any jet, and the fastest ground runner is 36 times slower than any car. And the numbers don't matter when you're faster and have ranged missiles and explosives, which could blow up hundreds of thousands at a time. Also, keep in mind that this doesn't factor the size of the bugs when they're moving, so in reality it's probably larger for them. Also, what about attack speed? I'm pretty sure bugs wouldn't be able to react or dodge any kind of weapons that Burns has. All he has to do is get in a jet, which will make the ground army irrelevant, and then just blast all the ones in the air, blitzing them with higher attack speeds from missiles, guns, bombs, and whatever faster travel speed. And also, hiding in the power plant means he pretty much only has to deal with the bugs from Chernobyl or something to that similar of a place, which would greatly reduce the army's size by a massive amount.
Sometimes the simplest answer is the correct one. As you said, he wouldn't take it seriously at first until he actually sees the bugs on his doorstep. But by then that would be too late. He wouldn't have the majority of the gadgets Butter would have listed if he didn't prepare. As for the vehicles, Mr. Burns is an incredibly prideful man. If he's using a ground vehicle, he is more than likely going to pop his head out the window to heckle at the bugs after slaughtering a chunk of them from within. Then that's just the bugs' opening. He has heckled people before in his pride and has gotten himself into danger or even lost for doing so in the past. It's something the writers would do. And again, Mr. Burns is just running away if he gets in a jet. Sure, he outspeeds him in that vehicle, but what win condition is he earning? Like, I'd say he's forfeiting. Otherwise, it'd just be a draw as neither of them are killing the other here. The bugs will just infest everything and reproduce. If he goes back, there's even more bugs for him to deal with than before.
Didn't you argue him losing to an ant? And yet he wouldn't take an army of bugs seriously? I know that you lost to a clown once before, Mage, but acting like one isn't netting you the win here. And with all these claims that he's too prideful or just wouldn't take this seriously, why? He's not so prideful or dense not to take a large-scale threat like this seriously. I've yet to see an actual time where he's faced with something to this degree and brushed it off. As well, Mr. Burns flying away isn't forfeiting, it's just giving him more time while also shutting down the ground bug's effectiveness. So even in this fantasy land where he didn't take it seriously, he would still have a way to get away safely that the bugs couldn't keep up or follow, allowing him a lot more time to plan and prepare to get whatever weapons, robots, or whatever he needs to kill these bugs. Also, the bugs aren't infesting that area. Need I remind you that Springfield is comically irradiated? Yeah, some bugs in Chernobyl can survive doses of radiation, but that's an extremely small amount, and the bugs are still not immune. They're resistant to a degree, but only slightly resistant. Springfield has buckets of the stuff just lying all over the area that makes kids go bald or their fish go mutant. The moment that they fly into the city, they're going to start dropping. Like flies. Now get your head out of the water. A duck older than even Mr. Burns has your next comment ready for you.
Hehehe. There's only one of each insect, so if a bee or a similar bug stings someone on the side, that's a bug down. Granted, there's an estimate over 1 million, 2 million, 30 million at most. Not insects ever, just one of each of those. Plus, bug lifespans are generally short, even without intervention. Are you on my side? Are you on my side, Ducko, or not? That said, the Burns is weak. There it is. There it is. Butter can BS it all he wants. Burns is supposed to be physically weak. That's the intent. Have some media literacy, for God's sakes. Especially without direct assistance. He has resources, yes, but with no Smithers or other individuals, how is he going to wrangle it all? He tries and then just gets stung by a bug while struggling. So I guess the bugs. This is set up as an epic struggle, but could be anticlimactic. Now, with Smithers and utilizing other employees, Springfield and all that, absolutely goodbye to the bugs. Solo Burns, just trying to release the hounds and the wayward robots, is not going to be able to utilize his full tactics, which relies on outside help. Thank you, Ducko, thank you!
Media literacy? Ducko, I watched a 33-season show and came to the conclusion that he's just a weaker old man, just not dysfunctionally weak. The only time in my debate where I imply anything else is when I joked about him being Nessie 3 minutes into the video. If you couldn't understand that as a joke, or don't have the attention span long enough to get past the 3rd minute mark before clicking on the Family Guy funny moments while Subway Surfer plays at the bottom of your recommended feed, then maybe don't talk shit about someone's media literacy. As far as your other points, I've already covered why Mr. Burns can do this on his own quite a lot.
Now, wait just a minute. Hold on. Douglas kinda spinning here. The intent with Mr. Burns is that he is weak. Pathetically so. The only reason he is ever really a threat is because of his money and his position in power.
Yes, the power which if he didn't utilize properly, he would easily lose it. I don't know how many times I gotta repeat it, but I never said he wasn't weak because he is. The argument is that he is weaker than a single bug, when that's just taking 20% of the jokes in the series and disregarding the rest of the 80% of it.
The 80% is just making it more functional to fit the story of the episode. Of course they aren't gonna make a Mr. Burns is weak joke all the time. That would get stale very quickly. On top of that, some stories need him to be functional. And I must say, this 80% is rather generous. Maybe the 20% for comically weak, but to be honest, I switched the statistics around for generally weak, but that's just me.
This is a point we can't seem to agree on, and since you insist on keeping your head in the clouds, let's go there for my next comment. Take it away, Ecto! The biggest thing that stands out to me is that so few bugs are actually lethally venomous or really harmful at all. We've seen ants beat him up, but never any worse than he could recover from. And he has plenty of resources that could completely eradicate all those bugs. The few that could slip into wherever he's bunkered down likely wouldn't be enough of a threat for him to lose. And most of the lethally dangerous insects are dangerous because they carry diseases, which can't affect Mr. Burns if he already has them all.
Yeah, the ant just tossed him around in self-defense for him trying to stomp on it. It wasn't enough for blood there. He immediately admits defeat because the ant is just so much stronger than him. It's very simple, Ecto. Not only that, the bugs don't need Venom's to overpower Burns. This dude was nearly crushed to death by balloons. He turns into a shriveled up raisin from a single bead of sweat. Any effort he exerts in this fight will kill him. If the bugs pile onto him, it kills him. It's a game of keep away. There is no doubt in my mind that the bugs can and will kill this man if they get close.
Sure, the balloons fell on him in that scene. Well, here's a scene of a mountain collapsing on him. He shriveled up when he let out a drop of sweat. Here's him crying more than a drop of sweat, and even radiation in his spine. Here's him fighting Homer evenly, kicking Bart hard enough to send a safe flying, and many, many more examples.
Need consistent gags there, buddy. Boy, I sure do love episodic shows. Again, Mr. Burns narratively is stupid weak. We're not taking characters at their absolute peak in GGM, we're taking them as they are narratively, how they are intended. If this was a death battle or something, yeah, I'd maybe give this to him, but this is a GGM, which is very different, even in a versus adjacent scenario. Though I've yapped plenty myself, let's just hear it from one last comment. This is certainly an interesting idea, but as much as I love The Simpsons and hate bugs, this clearly isn't something I feel Senior Burns has the best shot with. There's a bunch of holes you could poke in Burns' potential game plan, but I think the biggest issue Burns has here is similar to the issue plaguing previous combatants like Dick Dastardly and Invader Zim. Yes, it is undeniable that old Monty has a massive amount of resources on paper, but just having a lot of resources doesn't mean if you don't have the skill to properly utilize them, and it doesn't mean much if you... Okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Sorry, I didn't read it right, man. And Burns really doesn't have the skill more often than not. Like, yeah, he clearly has good business know-how and can be cunning with dealing with his enemies, but he's also forgotten what century he's living in and regularly forgets the name of an employee he has weekly notable interactions with. Him wasting his prep time is pretty inevitable, as him either leaving some kind of glaring weakness in his defenses will be really bad news. Single gap in his defenses is a gap that will let hundreds to thousands of bugs slip in, and with their sheer numbers, the odds of him managing to stop literally all of them is slim. And that's assuming he makes a competent frontline. Him dumping his money into something that doesn't help him at all due to his lack of modern understanding is exactly the kind of joke the show would make with them. Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely say that. And that's even assuming he can prepare it in time, as him not having access to Smithers could simply lead to him failing to do anything because how often he relies on even the most basic hygienic needs. And the bugs being, well, bugs doesn't mean they're just going to be flying to their deaths anyway. They do have a basic survival instinct, hence why they can be so hard to swat. So a semi-coordinated assault like this simply won't be ending with all of them just flying headfirst in a flamethrower or something. With that said, I for one welcome our new insect overlords, and I'd like to remind them that as a citizen versus debater, I can be helpful in their battle strategy to help identify foes who they can easily stump and make a mine out of the sugar mines. I just need more. I need more bugs matchups, please.
Dick and Zim are idiots with technology which keeps them from power. Mr. Burns is a very absurdly rich and intelligent manipulator, which is why he's empowered despite his frail body. Him forgetting Homer's name is a joke about him forgetting him specifically. This is explored more when he starts to name every other Simpson except for Homer. Not to mention, this is just a joke they abandoned a long time ago. There's not even much room for him to screw up his plan. It's not like he's doing anything complicated like breaking into some high-tech, heavily guarded place. He's just trying to kill some bugs. Buy many robots, get in jet. Robots in environment kill bugs. Burns flies away if they get too close. You're just overestimating bugs. They're stupid. Some of them are a little smarter than others, but they aren't making any plans. They're just flying at Burns directly, and then the environment is going to kill a vast majority of them. As far as Mr. Smithers, he can function without him. He is there to help, but this isn't a case of him needing him to survive.
I don't know, buddy. I think there's plenty of ways to screw up. And in fact, Mr. Burns has screwed up against a swarm before, and in a treehouse of horror. That's right, Mr. Burns has been killed by zombies before. Of course, these are runner zombies, but it's still a swarm. Mr. Burns has had the same resources in that situation, and Smithers, yet he became a zombie all the same. No, he doesn't blow up Springfield with his nuclear power plant, he doesn't fly in a jet, he doesn't get himself a massive army of robots, he just dies off screen. Zombies are dumber than bugs too, and they just ran at Burns directly. I also want to mention that Mr. Burns isn't an average person with an assistant. He's a very below average person with an assistant. Mr. Burns relies on Smithers and other humans. Sure, you can function without them for a while, when there isn't any danger! When there's danger, Mr. Burns falls apart. Again, I don't see him winning this whatsoever, and I am losing my mind at this back and forth. So let's just get this over with, shall we? Well. We've made it to the end. Except for one of us to swallow their pride and admit they're wrong about this argument that's lasted a whole year.
Well, according to you, my pride's too big to swallow. So let me sum up my final thoughts on this little matter. Never was keen on taking losses, I'll crush any of you. Won't take defeat to what's below my feet, no, I'll just say you lose. Now, I'll crush all of these stupid bugs, every single one you had. Oh, your army is quite massive, but to me they'll never catch. Yes, you lose, legit, no cap. I'll be the winner of this show. I'll send my attack, you cannot run back, you chose the wrong foe. Beetles, ants, butterflies, mosquitoes, ladybugs, roaches, earwigs, silverfish, dragonflies, and walking sticks, mayflies, hornets, bristletails, termites, and honeybees, sucking lice and alderflies, send them all, they're gonna die.
Damn, he's got a victory jingle? You know what, I'll give you the win just for that! And also, the incredibly valid points from before.
Wait, seriously? Man, I thought bugs were far more stubborn on dying.
That we were, but we've been debating for hours, months even, and our lifespans do not go that long.
It was by far the longest debate we've had in a while, but in the end we concluded that even with their numbers, it would be just way too hard for the bugs to realistically take this more times than not. First being just a difference in intelligence. Yes, the bugs can have survival instinct, but not only do their instincts suck, they generally are going against someone whose mind they couldn't feasibly comprehend. Bugs don't understand what guns or bombs are. Some will land in a puddle of water and then just drown because they didn't know they aren't able to fly when they're wet. Not all of them are this stupid, but even the more intelligent ones like bees or ants don't come close to Mr. Burns. He's a guy who built a multi-million-dollar to billion-dollar industry several times over with his own two hands. Even in modern episode, he utilizes weaknesses like the plastic rings for the fish to benefit himself. While he might not know their weaknesses right off the bat, he's more than willing to research them whenever it's beneficial to himself. in this case, not dying. This, along with the will to buy pretty much whatever he wants, and he could set up a million different traps or plans in order to stop the bugs. The only arguments that the bugs could have was that God was controlling them, which, no, that's not what was happening. That was not the scenario.
While the bugs naturally have versatility through just how many different types there are, their different poisons, venoms, diseases, and maneuverability are going to do jack to Mr. Burns' army. Like, realistically, a bug is not tearing through a robot. I could make up a scenario of a bug getting into a robot and chewing its wires up, but the chances of that happening are infinitesimally small. And even then, that's just one robot, and there are plenty where that came from. The bugs already got stuff they normally wouldn't have, with like just appearing in the general area Mr. Burns is in, knowing where he is at all times, and not having the instinct to kill each other. We really wouldn't give them odds manipulation on top of that.
Plus, he still had a variety of other options like explosives to blow them up, endless smoke to suffocate them, or the glass dome to severely slow them down. But not only was this a matter of technology intelligence, Mr. Burns also held one extremely powerful weapon in this war that the bugs had no real counter to. Cover your ears, Mage.
No, don't say it.
Radiation. There was just no dancing around how bad this was for the bugs. It's a power plant with nuclear waste disposed of in very unsafe ways across the entire building.
We did find bugs that could withstand some radiation, but realistically they were all turning into mush the second they entered that building. And even if they were immune to being around radiation, it glows in the show. I could say the lights are on so the bugs wouldn't acknowledge it, but then Burns could just shut off the lights. Then he has the deadliest bug zapper known to man just sitting everywhere in the building.
Even the ones in Chernobyl were melting just by being near the power plant, and that was a real life one with several safety measures. The Simpsons being a cartoon just gives it a huge advantage on how exaggerated the levels of radiation is there. It's not something that can be ignored either when it's acknowledged as being so bad that the city's fish is a mutant one. Worst case, the 1% of bugs that can survive the radiation is left where the 99% of the rest of them is left a pile of goop. His robots and other weapons can handily clean up the rest.
On top of all this, Mr. Burns could also just leave, and that's a perfectly viable win con for him, giving him more prep time than he already has. Which, by the way, I hate that it is a win con. That's so fucking stupid. It's like the equivalent of getting 3 wishes from a genie and then wishing for infinite wishes.
I wish for infinite
Prep time. And one final thing to note, obviously if you take Mr. Burns as being so physically weak that a regular ant can toss him aside or light photons can overpower him, then he'd lose just by the weight of his clothes instantly crushing him. For this debate to work, we had to put both sides at a level where they could even function properly. Mr. Burns as a very weak old man, but still a functioning adult man. And the bugs in return are prevented from attacking each other on instinct, were given Burns' location constantly, and were warped to Springfield at the start of the week. I think a more than fair enough trade-off.
If this fight took place in a giant empty field, I 100% believe the bugs would win. There are a chunk of bugs that could overpower him on their own, given we're using the weak Mr. Burns that presented, or horde of them could just crush him. On top of my belief on how his supposed disease immunity works, although I doubt Butter and I will ever see eye to eye on that, but I digress. The point would be entirely moot if the bugs can't reach Burns in the first place, and through this debate, it became abundantly clear that Burns had literally the perfect fortress for this scenario. I conceded that the power plant was the best hideout during the debate and tried to brush it off and downplay it, but realistically, it's just everything one could possibly want here. That being like the power plant is good at radiation. Like, if one were to make a tier list of holdouts for a swarm of one of every bug, the power plant would be among the very top. Even if a bug somehow got into Mr. Burns' space and got past his mech, the vast majority of bugs aren't winning that 1v1. Even if we took Mr. Burns' loss to the ant as a regular ant, the chances of that bug being an ant or a bug with similar strength to an ant is very low.
An irradiated ant, mind you.
We are not arguing this again. The interpretation of this ant took weeks alone. Alright, so this is the part where we have our wholesome moment where we talk about how much we love who we debated for, right?
Love? What's there to love about this crinkly sack of shit?
Really now? The whole reason this episode happened in the first place was because of you being Burns' strongest soldier on the forum, fighting for your prince's honor in his many 1v1s against insects. You came off as Smithers 2.0.
It's not my fault the wiki was wrong. He's a piece of crap, and that piece of crap kicks one of every bug's ass in a fight, unfortunately.
With prep time! But whatever. I'm glad the news is since lost anyway. Actual day ruiners. At least Mr. Burns is actually entertaining. He's the funny one here.
And Mr. Burns' present doesn't ruin your day. At least there are bugs like bees that make honey and keep flowers alive.
They still hover around you, and if you slip up, that can bring you physical harm. Sure, not anything long-lasting, but I prefer not to get stung. Mr. Burns is at least fictional. No actual harm will come to me from watching his antics.
Just don't bother them. They're doing their own thing. Burns may be fictional, but it's still annoying to know he exists, and that's without any actual added benefits.
If Mr. Burns existing is causing you physical anguish, that's a whole other issue. Bugs consistently are just the most irritating things I've ever had to.
As promised by the voice above, a week later, a horde of bugs seemed to come out of nowhere. Millions upon millions coming in all directions. An army unlike this world has ever seen before. But as they flew in, bombs, missiles, and lasers flew into their numbers, splattering them by the hundreds. No matter the bug, ant, cockroach, or beetle, they were swiftly being splattered across the pavement. Armies of robots filling the streets to fight back the menace. Meanwhile, all the way in his office, Mr. Burns sat and watched, his technology proving to be far superior to Mother Nature's little vermin. As the hours passed, the bugs that did make it to the power plant quickly melted into goo due to the toxic radiation that seeped out around the unsafe building. The only noise that could be heard echoing through the halls was the laughter of the man who won.